and then hand it over to Mark.
Sure. Welcome, everyone. My name is Marcelo Ramirez Garcia Rojas. I'm the curator here at the National Museum of Art and Science, for those of you who don't know me. This is one of the rare opportunities that we have one of our artists here, so I won't say much, but what I do want you to keep in mind as you look at these photos and you listen to Mark is consider our place in space, in time, and in the universe. And I also want you to think about how art can help ignite a passion for science. Mark and I were talking about how art and science are these two subjects that are moving. Art can be very moving. It's very easy to be moved by a piece of art. You see a beautiful painting, some people are brought to tears. Science, on the other hand, you have to be a nerd. You have to really geek out to really like something and feel moved by it. But art is a magnificent vehicle to allow us to be moved the same way that scientists who know way much more about these astros, about this geology than us, for us to be able to access that same joy. So without further ado, I hand it over to Mark Chen.
All right. Thank you. Muchas gracias, Anne and Marcelo. Mi nombre es Mark Chen. Soy fotógrafo. Buenas tardes. Y bienvenido a mi exposición. And that's all the Spanish you will hear from me tonight. Thank you. So I want to give you an introduction to what you're looking at here. So you're looking at projections of NASA images. I didn't take the photo of the galaxies using here. I used NASA images. And I invented a projector that's capable of projecting very large projections onto the landscape without breaking my back and my wallet. So this is a very special projector I call the POP, projection of power and portability. Okay, so not photoshopped. Okay, they are actually happening at the landscape, in the cave, at Grand Canyon, at Beastie Badlands, in the Sierra Nevada. Okay, so I bring slides of NASA images along with lots of equipment, 60 pounds at total, all in together, and make the projection. Okay, now the science. So gather around. I'd like you to get closer and have a look at this illustration here. Don't be shy. You know, I hope my Spanish didn't scare you away. Most of the time, it has comedic effect. The people I speak to, laugh, So this illustration is a timeline of the whole universe. 14.8 billion years, okay? So the first line is 13.8 billion years. So it starts with the Big Bang, right? The very initial explosive event that gave birth to the universe. So the first line comes to about a third of it. Earth was born, okay? So 4.5 billion years ago. So Earth age is about a third of a universe age. Now, in this timeline, they are like this illustrates the birth of Earth, but these are also pieces that matches the timeline. So this piece, which is right here, has a galaxy that is 4.6 billion light years away. That galaxy cluster is 4 billion light years away, okay? So most of the pieces here are pairing the galactic images and the geologic formations by matching the distance in light years to the age in years. So back to the Carlsbad-Haven. Andromeda Galaxy is 2.5 million light years away. Carlsbad-Haven started forming 2.5 million years ago. So they are paired together. So the idea is that these things from the universe and the things on Earth, they travel through space and time to today, to us. who live a very, very brief moment compared to their age, and we are lucky to be alive together to witness them. So that's the idea. So a little bit more on this. So the first timeline gets to here, and then we have pieces that's matching the timeline. Then we take the last bit of it and make it longer so I can show more things, right? So the second timeline starts with 670 million years ago. So this piece right here is that age. So the age of information and the distance of that galaxy in light years, again, a pair. And all the way here. And on the second line here, that's the age of the dinosaur. Okay? And I have a piece right here, which is a dinosaur footprint at Glen Rose, Texas. That's our own in Texas. This footprint is 200 million light years old. And that galaxy, again, is 200 million light years away. And Glen Rose is right in the south of Dallas area. A must see, right? This is world famous, okay? Now, if you ever want to go there, check out the water level. There's a USGS website that shows you all the rivers water level in Texas. Make sure it's low water level. If it level is high, you won't see it because this is on the riverbed. So go there when the river level is low. Now, I was just at the American Museum of Natural Science in New York, having a talk with the astronomer. Actually, I hold a grudge against that museum because a century ago, they sent people to Glen Rose and took a whole riverbed, cut it out, and sent it to New York to be on display. And it's still there now, okay? But that grudge was erased last year because when the water dropped so low, some even better footprints showed up. So what they took wasn't the best anymore. So no problem. Yay. So yeah, that's pieces here. And then here you see an illustration of the meteor striking Earth. That's when all the dinosaurs went kaput. Okay, so about 65 million years ago. And this piece right here behind this wall is just about after that. So 35 million years, then stretch out again, the next line here. And finally, at the end of this third timeline, we have Homo erectus. So, finally, our ancestor appeared, right? And this piece from Yosemite was from that era, about 300,000 light years away, 330,000 years ago, the valley of Yosemite was formed by the glaciers. You stand to the next one, and we have all these pieces, and about 7,000 years ago, we humans started to form village. We were no longer hunter-gatherer. We started to gather around, and that matches to the village of Grand Canyon there. So this is not a time matching, but not to the geology, but to anthropology. So I have to be imaginative to match them. Otherwise, I'm running out of ideas, right? And this one is very interesting. So this piece right there is a General Sherman tree. And General Sherman tree is one of the oldest tree. I think, let me see, let me have a cheat sheet. It's actually 2,000 years old, about 2,000, just over that. And that nebula is 2,000 light years away. So imagine this. So again, the light of that galaxy we see today is actually sent out 2,000 years ago when General Sherman tree started to grow like a little baby. So they arrive at the same today for us to witness. A big tree and a beautiful nebula. So finally, the last line, and we come to newer things, right? General Sherman is there. Orion Nebula on white sand. These are talk about over 1,000 years. And this is also Texas own. This is called Goldman Tree Waterfall at Colorado Bend State Park. beautiful waterfall. It's a very special waterfall because it doesn't erode. It's not eroding. It's growing. It's more like the cave, like the deposits of mineral. So this waterfall actually gets taller, not shorter. You got to have a look. It's a beautiful place, but just make sure you bring off. Lots and lots of mosquitoes. They ate me alive. So that's almost 400 light years away. So you see the number becomes smaller and smaller, right? But then our country was born even right after that, right? So USA was born. And here we have a few pieces that's talk about a few hours, like Old Faithful. The cycle of the geyser is an hour and a half. And the life on Saturn takes about an hour and a half to reach us. So a very different kind of thing, right? All those photos takes a long time. I can compose it very slowly, but this one was a few seconds. And if you spend about 2 hours in this show, the duration of 2 hours will be about the width of a tentacle of a bacteria in the last part of this line here. 2 hours, width of a tentacle. So a bit of mind-blowing scale of times, right? So what I like to do is I like to walk around and give you some tell you some stories about these pieces. So you got this one. This is General Sherman. And this one I want to tell you, it's also a very interesting, unique experience. This is Beastly Badlands in New Mexico? I think so. A very unique kind of erosion that caused this, right? And when I photographed this by matching their distance and light years again, I thought this pillar of creation, which is an image by James Webb doing image, they look amazingly harmonious, don't you think? This looks just like that. And I didn't put too much thought into it until I brought this image to American Astronomical Society. So the booth next to me has this Dr. Hart came to here, to my booth, and she looked at this and said, "Oh, you're an astronomer. Don't you think these two things look so harmonious?" And she said, because they are both eroded. The one on the Earth, of course, is eroded by the rain and wind, right? Pillar of creation is actually a star nursery that gives birth to new stars, baby stars. And the baby stars radiates very strong radiation and blows away the interstellar gas. So this shape is being eroded. One is erosion by wind and water, one is erosion by interstellar radiation. So their forming mechanisms are similar. Mind-blowing. So what I like to do next is you pick a few and tell me which one you want me to talk about. Or you have questions about. Sure.
I have this one picture.
Which one?
The one with the swamp.
Oh, you cannot make out your mind.
The very end.
Oh, the swamp. This one here?
Yes.
Okay, so this one is from Louisiana. This is in a swamp, okay? Cypress tree and Eagle Nebula. And the matching, of course, is not cypress tree. That cypress tree is not 2,000 years old. But the swamp in Louisiana is formed by the change of course of Mississippi River, which happens about 1,000 years, every time 1,000 years. So we're looking at 2,000 years here, which is 2 cycles of the change, right? The river changes and left behind swamps, okay? And this nebula is 2,000 light years away. And swamps are so nice. I was there. It's so, tranquil. I was there early in the morning. I always need to work in the dark, as you can imagine, right? The projection needs to be in the darkness. I thought I'm gonna finish and go home. I ended up feeling so mesmerized by the place. I stayed the whole day. I found a bench and lie down to have a siesta. I woke up and saw a little green spider crawling around my camera bag. I wait for the light to go away, and I did more. And I got this one. And this one was a lot better than the one I did in the morning, so it was worth a stay. So I spent the whole day there in the swamp. I want to be the neighbor of Shrek. Another pic.
The one behind you.
This one here. Good pic. This is the latest. This is Badlands National Park. I rushed there the last semester finished, the spring semester finished. I rushed to take this. So recently, I've been having more opportunities to do things like this, which talking to you, having exhibitions, which is great, but it also took away some time for me to produce. So I rushed to make this one, and this is again a erosion versus erosion example. So Badlands, of course, soil erosion. You can see that the mountains being cut down, right, by natural elements. And this is a Carina Nebula, also by James Webb, which is actually the same image as this one. Okay, and I did a few things over there, and my brother, who was a geologist, saw what I did on Facebook and say, erosion theme is here. Did you bring anything to do that? Of course, he was in Taiwan, I was in here. And I said, oh, good idea. And I went back. So I did this the last day. So thanks to him.
How were you able to achieve it where the fronts?
Good question. So that for me, I have a sort of an evolution of composition. At the beginning was very straightforward, like the galaxy in the cave-in, and a few other pieces, which is straight on in the middle. But then I gradually started to realize I want to make it look more 3D with more depth. And one thing I could do is I will project behind some formation to use the earthy part in the foreground, the galaxy in the background. So it creates a sense of the galaxy came and nestled within the formation, right? So what I did is I put the projector actually right here, slightly behind this. So it projects onto behind this mound between the two. And I was quite far away from them, right? So wireless trigger, right? I was pushing the limit of a wireless trigger, so sometimes it didn't pop. I need to adjust it a little bit to make sure it pops. But that's a great question. That's one thing, sort of a compositional trick I use to make it looking more interesting. Sure.
Is your projection simultaneous with the shot? Or
Yes. Yes. So the pop is actually powered by a flash. And the flash, of course, flash is like just the flash you use for photography, right? But I just turn the flash into the power source of the projector. And that flash has a wireless trigger connected to my camera. So I press the camera and the flash goes off. And they can be quite separated. And Olive, my wife here, she has helped me with quite a few projects. And she's also always on the side of projection. Sometimes the projector and the camera can be hundreds of feet away. So to compose, these two people are on walkie-talkie. I will say, that my projectors is fitted on a tripod head with scales, degrees. So I will say, point to the right 10 degree, tilt 5 degrees. I try that because I need to compose it, right? It's not just pop. It has to be composed and make sure it looks good.
really love the Jupiter and Saturn.
Jupiter and Saturn.
You could point out some features. I think it looks so different from close up and far away.
Yes, do have a good close look because this one is very loaded. So first of all, this is the same spot as that one. You can tell. This is Grand Canyon Village, right? That little house to the very left of the village, by the way, is the Verkamp Visitor Center where I stayed for a month. And over there at the edge is the most expensive hotel, El Tovar, like $300, $400 a night, right? Good, I didn't have to stay there, good. So now, if you look very closely, you will see this. This is the switchbacks of Bright Angel Trail. And the Bright Angel Trail is probably the most popular trail for Grand Canyon, and it's very strenuous. On all trail, it's rated hard. So first it's a trail. And so if you hike up, average speaking, from this here, about an hour and a half, if you are not bad, right? And from here and up is 45 minutes. So guess what is a matching? The life on Saturn is an hour and a half, just like I mentioned earlier for Old Faithful. And life on Saturn takes about 45 minutes. So the idea is next time you go hike this, you want to pretend that you're racing with light that came from Saturn and Jupiter. Let's see who gets there first. And what are these? These are the headlights of the hiker. They were hiking in the middle of the night. So when I captured, they were a few, like one to probably, I was remember, yeah, there's another one here. So these were people walking on the trail. Very cold. It was probably about 10 degrees Fahrenheit. Huh?
That's snow.
Snow. This is February, very bitter cold winter I had there. And the manager at Grand Canyon Conservancy said, we saw you suffered, so we never offer winter residency again. But I told her I'm fine, you know, because the scenery is stunning. Why not? But I think they worry about the safety of the people, so their residents. Yeah, and this is one of my favorites. So good pick. Which else you want to talk about? William. This one? So this is also BC Badlands. This is the same place as that one. So BC Badlands is full of wonders, very exotic things like this, right? But it's also the hardest place I ever hiked because it's like a small up and down, up and down, up and down. So what does it turn into? A maze. You cannot see far, and the trails were not marked. So the only way to do it is old trail. You have to look at old trail every few seconds, or you are off the path. I was very tempted to devise something that can actually hold my cell phone, so I can have still both hands for the track pole. But as I mentioned earlier, I have to hike in the dark very often. So this project has been very interesting, like taught me so many things that I didn't know before. One of them was hiking in the dark. And hiking in the darkness is actually very illuminating. When I hike in the dark, I realize that there are things that you do to find your way. For example, I was a little bit lost once, and I look around, I cannot find my direction. It was the most unnerving kind of weather, which is cloudy. It blocks the light of the moon, it blocks the light of the stars, so you cannot see what's in the sky to give you direction. Okay, so I thought, what should I do? I shut the headlight off, and my pupils expanded, and I saw the skyline, and I found my way. So for you to see far, you have to switch the light off. Right? Imagine your headlight is pretty bright, but it only hits 20 feet, and everything behind it is totally invisible. So turn the lights off if you want to see far. And so this is of course a matching, right? If I remember right, it's 250 million light years away galaxy matching part of the formation at BC Badlands.
Which has been your favorite
They are all special, right? But the one behind you, left to the BC Badland image above the lake, that one during the hike, that's the only backpacking one that I need to spend overnight. Uh, I encountered two bears on the way out. So that was one of the earlier one, and I didn't know too much about hiking. I learned it. I consulted my niece, who is the expert hiker in the family, who introduced me to REI, where I broke my wallet, buying tents and boots and everything. Has anybody been to REI? It's expensive store, but fun, lots and lots of toys. But the fun thing is they encourage you to return it. They are non-for-profit.
Membership, right?
Yes, with membership. And over there you can find secondhand underwears. It's like, wow, I don't think I'm frugal, I'm not that frugal to buy secondhand underwears, right? But they always say that, hey, if you don't like it, take it back, even after a year. Wow, okay. So with that one, I hiked for the first time. I sort of tested my endurance and my cardio and my age. And I had 60 pounds on my back. It was heavy, and then as if it's not enough, National Park says you have to rent bear canisters from us. You know what that is? It's a container that's sealed tight so bears cannot get to your food. You have to rent it. So that thing itself added another 10 pounds. But I only had that two bear on the way out, not when I was in the tent. Thank goodness. When I was in the tent, I only had marmots. They are very cute. They just walk around as if I wasn't there, like big rats almost. Yeah. But they were cute. So that's one of the most memorable hike I had. Other than that, BC Badlands was difficult, and some of them were very easy, like the one behind the wall here, the Sombrero Galaxy one, and again, Olive assisted me on that one. It was just almost from the parking lot. So some easy ones. Old Faithful was a few steps away from Old Faithful Lodge. So not too hard. So when we failed for the first attempt, because the steam went away so fast, we didn't work, and then we went back there, go to a hotel, have a couple cups of hot chocolate, and then went back and shoot. It was also very cold. Anything else you want to know?
Is there anything that you want to take a picture of that you haven't yet?
Yes, I have about 200 dots on my Google map. I have a lot of photographer friends, right? Landscape photographers. And they post something on Facebook. And I said, wow, that's great. Where is it? Iceland. Okay. And where's that one? Oh, Utah, blah, blah. Can you be more specific? Yes. Then I have 200 dots there. So what I need to sell some of these pieces so I can fund myself. So if you have some empty wall in your house, or if you don't make some empty walls, and let me know. Any other questions? Any piece you want to know a little more about it?
What about the one in the corner there?
That one here? So this is Big Bend. This is called the Cerro Castellan. And before that one, this has been my record of projection. This is about 1,000 feet across. And this memorable thing about this one is I went with my daughter, whose name is Masha, and when she went with me on Thanksgiving Day, she just broke up with a guy with a questionable character. So it's kind of like a healing process for us. We were bonding, and she was helping me with this. And but unfortunately, our Airbnb's toilet got clogged, so we need to get out of there quick. So we changed the plan. After we shot this, we drove straight to Marathon, Texas, and middle of nowhere, right? And the highway was so deserted. in the middle of the highway, there was one javelina having a little straw. So Marcia and I were singing to Billy Joel, and all of a sudden, in my headlight, I see a javelina. And we both cursed, and I veered the car, and both survived. We didn't hit the javelina. Otherwise, we would have like roasted pig that day. And so it was a, I think Chinese and Latinos, we both like, cochinos. So, yeah, that was a very memorable one. So this is Big Bend. So you can see that there's quite a few Texas ones in here.
And the dots in the sky, the lines are
This is actually an airplane. Airplane. So you flew and you go blink, 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 and the exposure of 10 minutes takes a few blinks. So my work, this series was featured in the article in National Geographic in March of this year. It's still online, right? If you just Google National Geographic Mark Chen, you will see the article. And this piece was in there. Which one else is in there? That one just right to the Saturn. That one was featured in there. The Yosemite one was featured in there. And the Sombrero Galaxy behind the Welcome Wall. That one's in there. So do check it out. I was very glad that I got their attention. Any other questions?
Could you speak to this one?
About this one? So this is Carlsbad Haven and Andromeda Galaxy. Actually, one of the earlier one, almost the very first few months that I started the idea and the projector was working, and Olive and I went in here. This is actually one of the easiest projection I made because, hey, it's indoor space, right? It's probably 600 feet underground. I don't quite remember the number, but this is the only one I don't have to wait for the night. Anytime, right? And the projection, it looks big here because the print is big, but it's probably 200 feet across. So it is not too hard to project. And it turned out to be one of the favorite because I feel like the details of the galaxy and the details of the cave, they are both very intricate, but they are very contrast, right? One, the color, the shape. So that's the kind of story I like to tell, right? It's not just a science of thinking about deep time and look back time, which is talk about looking back 2.5 million years, right? It's also the beauty of these two things, right? The problem I set out to solve is the question is how to bring the beautiful galaxies into an art gallery. It's Mother Nature's masterpiece, right? But how can a visual artist do something to justify that this should come to the art gallery? So this is to solve that question.
I have a question on that one. So you mentioned that the projections and the flash, those are just like a very brief second. So for this one, when you're in the cave, because you said the exposure, that can take like in that one it took like 10 minutes where it's...
That one's, yeah, so for most of these, the exposure for the ambient light, which means to see the rock and the sky, or in that case, the sand dune of white sand, or that one there, the village, the exposure for the ambient light and the exposure for the projection are normally separated because they require very, very different settings. So then the tripod of hold the camera stable, right? So they are the same. They can overlap precisely. And with those two different exposures, or sometimes 3 or 4, I put them together in post-production. So the flash, of course, is very quick, right? You can use like 200ths of a second to expose. But for the surrounding, it's wherever the surrounding is. It depends on the surrounding. So 10 seconds there. This is actually one exposure because they happen to be just pretty similar. The light of this and the light of my projection, it works out fine. So I didn't separate the exposure. But for most of them, the exposures are done separately. So when National Geographic published this work, they want to make sure that I didn't cheat. They actually asked me to show them all the original raw files. Like that one, the Yosemite one, yeah, it has a fine print on next to the photo. It says composite of 3 raw images. They are sandwiched together, and they checked it. So it was a great pleasure working with people with that kind of, dedication. We live in an age full of errors, don't you think? And with that kind of attitude on doing things, I think it's upholding a standard. Any other things you'd like to know? Yes, Marcelo.
I have a two-parter. I'm interested in the right angle bridge and the black hole
Yes.
photograph, but also, could you tell us a little bit more? What drew you to the stars? What really brought that to the forefront to be featured so prominently?
This one here. So first of all, this is actually a photo. The what's projected is a photo of black hole. This is the second black hole photo human ever produced. The first one was in M51. It's in the center of a galaxy. This one is at the center of our own Milky Way. So now they think that at the center of every galaxy, there should be a black hole, and a tremendous one. This black hole has 7,000 times, 7 million times of the mass of our sun. Okay? So, of course, the thing itself is mind-boggling, right? And the black hole's image was created by an international collaboration called EHT, Event Horizon Telescope, which is using the whole Earth different radio telescope to be put together to form that kind of image. So this one is not a match of the numbers like the others. This one, I'm imagining the Bright Angel Bridge being the jet stream that's being shot off the black hole. If you look at some illustration of black hole, sometimes they have jet streams going out. The accretion disk, jet stream. So I'm imagining this bridge is being the jet stream. So the black hole's image, if you look at it, like a donut-shaped glow. The amazing thing is, has anybody watched the movie Interstellar? And you remember in there is like a shape of the black hole, the black circle in the middle, and there are things turning around it. When they shot the movie, they didn't take this photo yet. So the movie was made under the consultation of scientists. So the movie producer asked them, how would the black hole look like? Christopher Nolan, my hero. And they say it should look like this. And then they got a photo of black hole, and it looks just like the movie. And that's totally stunning. So this is actually one of my favorites because of all these things behind it. When I talked to the astronomers at American Museum of Natural History last week, they love this one. They just, I think, that's the geeky excitement. Oh, black hole, yeah. So, and this is the Colorado River, the very bottom of Grand Canyon.
Did you, when you conceptualized this specific picture, did you want to do the black hole first or the bridge first, or?
That's again, you are full of great questions, Marcelo. Great job. It depends. So the homework is that I survey a site, and I get as much as, well, back up a little more. At the beginning of the project, I collected manually all the NASA images out there, and I made a spreadsheet, and I put numbers in there so I can look it up very quickly. So that's one preparation. And every time I look at the site, I will look at the photo and say, oh yeah, looking good, no problem. How big is it? Okay, so to measure how big is it, I use Google Earth. And you open up the site, okay, this hill, I want to project. How big is it? 1,000 feet, okay, manageable. 1 mile, 3 miles, I love the things that looks big, but are actually not too big. Like Devil's Tower is actually only a few hundred feet across, so no problem. But it looks awesome, right? Grand Canyon was the worst. Everything is huge. And why huge is a problem, right? Because remember inverse square law. When you shoot lights out, if you double the distance, the brightness is a quarter. So it gets dimmer very quickly, right? So I do all this homework. Then, of course, one thing to think is, do they look good together? So that comes back to your question. And I will visualize it. I think, well, they look good together. But sometimes when you go on site and you go pop, it's they are not good together, right? Then I have a box of slides, and I switch to something that matches in other ways, maybe the same number of distance, or maybe some other reason like erosion. And then I'll check and see, oh, they look good together. So it's kind of like a dating. Do these two work together well? You don't know until you try. There's a little philosophy about picking a spouse. I'm not talking about you two, okay?
You mentioned that I think in the audio for Jupiter and Saturn that
Yes.
you had to run back to grab some.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
So I did this one, and I looked down, I thought, oh, wow, the hikers and the trail. And I thought, okay, I'm going to do planets. And I opened my box and I flipped through and said, darn, I don't have them with me. But then I looked up and I saw Vercamp Visitor Center. I thought, well, it's right there. So, and I thought, well, who in the right mind will come and steal my cameras at 15 Fahrenheit and at 10 o'clock? So I just say, leave everything there. And I jumped in my car and I went, I drove back, go around the canyon and got back to visitor center and grabbed the planets slides and went back there and made the projection. So it was the last moment thing. And it turned out to be a good one.
How much equipment?
How much is equipment?
Yeah, how much equipment are you usually carrying?
About 60 pounds. Because everything is doubled, right? Camera, projector, one tripod, two tripods. So they adds up, right? So I went to Grand Canyon 2 times for the residency. The second time I went there, I actually cheated by hiring a mule to carry half of the thing down there. The first time was a ranger. The ranger hiked with me, to go this up with 60 pounds, that's a little bit too much.
So you're like Ansel Adams and Edward Weston hiking.
That's yes, they are my role models, right? So in my artist statement, I also mentioned this, that I'm carrying the torch of landscape photographer. And I want to do that because I think it's a tradition that should be upheld. Because it's particularly meaningful in today, when first Photoshop made everything possible, then AI, you sit in front of the computer and you do everything there. Not for this project, because my thought is, I'm the catalyst to connect heaven and earth. They made their journey. Where's my journey? So my journey, although for their scale is nothing, But for me, it's 60 pounds and sweat and muscle pain and things. I think that's conceptually correct for me to pay the due through my legwork. So no Photoshop.
I'm curious, were there any of these scenarios where you had to get special permissions, or all of them, or any challenges that you came across?
I actually didn't have to get any particular permission, but I have collaboration like the Grand Canyon one. It's a residency for a month, which the long stay enable things. Like for this, I actually went there 2 or 3 times to make an exposure when the moon was at different location. I needed the moon and I don't need the moon. Depends on when I'm making projection or I'm sculpting like this. This is moonlight. So a long stay helps, right? But back to your question, it's very interesting. The superintendent of Grand Canyon, actually, after I was awarded the residency, he's asked Grand Canyon Conservancy, so is Mark Chen's projection going to interfere with other visitors' experience? And the answer is no, because they can barely see it, right? It's so dim, like when Olive was helping me, sometimes I try to make her see it, say, okay, I'm now going to pop it, look, pop, and she went, huh? I didn't see a whole lot. Just like, it will feel like somebody used a flash next to you. That's all. Huh? Even less than that, because it's a reduced flash. It's not all the light going out. Uh-huh.
Some tourists, I saw 2 tripods. And
Yeah.
one guy told me, I don't know why he set up like that.
Right.
And they actually stand there and look for quite a long time.
They didn't notice, right? So you're talking about the one that for that shot. So even people around me who's looking for it didn't see too much, right? So too bad. Somebody say, "Oh, I want to see when this is happening." So sorry, there's nothing to see. But I think this is also interesting that there's actually an element of stealth in this technique. So I might do something different, like I can project this image differently for different narrative, but it's barely noticeable. Did I answer your question, Anastasia? Yeah. Any other question? Okay, well, I guess, should we call it a night? Thank you.
I would be remiss if I didn't add that Mark will be back with us in November for our Mysterious Cosmos Family Fun Night. We have family stargazing when it gets dark enough in the evening. We partner with UTRGV's Center for STEM Education. They bring their big telescopes to the museum and help facilitate looking at the heavens. And Mark's graciously agreed to come back and join with us on November 20th and share pilgrimage of light with those families who will be with us stargazing. So,
all right.
So if you want more Mark Chen, or if you have friends and family who weren't able to join you today, we invite you to come back on November 20th.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Muchas gracias.